Hello everyone, welcome to Miss Jess Suggests. This is a new segment from the Ames Free Library. I'm Miss Jess and I'm the Youth Services Librarian at the Ames Free Library. Every few weeks I'm going to sit down with you here and recommend some great reads. They might be seasonal, they might be new, they might be something great from a favorite author, or maybe they'll just be some of my old favorites. But whatever they are, stay tuned for some good stuff. This episode's books are early independent chapter books. Everything I'm going to show you today is part of a series, which is a really great boost for those newly independent readers. These chapter book series are all really good for anyone looking to practice and to build on their reading fluency. And for some readers that might be, very early elementary school. For some readers that might be the upper end of elementary school. So it really doesn't matter your grade or your age. It's just kind of how comfortable you are with your reading. And as I said, a lot of these are series, so you can kind of jump in and get into a flow, and all that repetition with the same characters, the same worlds, is really helpful for working on and building that fluency. You're probably familiar with a whole lot of chapter book series. You've probably seen them before. Maybe you have some in your classroom, maybe you have some at home. A lot of popular series, The Magic Treehouse, fall under this category. Bad Guys, these are kind of fun. They're a little bit of a graphic series. Really fun at that level. Puppy Place, Judy Moody, and Stink, some super popular ones. Of course, many of you might know The Princess in Black, or even better, The Owl Diaries. There is Miss Daisy is Crazy, all of these, The Weird School Days. So a lot of these are the chapter book level books that you might already be familiar with. I'm going to skip all of those today because I know what you want to see are new books that maybe you haven't heard of before. Let's get started with Once Upon a Fairy Tale. All these books, there's a whole series of them. Right now there are 4 books in the series. The last one came out this past August, so they're pretty new. These are Once Upon a Fairy Tale by Anna Staniszewski. She's actually a local author, so a little fun fact for you. These definitely are fantasy. These books are full of fantasy fun, and to be more specific, fairy tale fun. I would say any reader, these are going to be of interest to any reader who's a fan of fairy tales, who's a fan of that kind of fun, quirky fantasy. They have adventure. These books have mystery. They're not just your straight, typical fairy tales. So let's see. Kara and her friend Zed are the stars of the show. They kind of lead this diverse cast of characters, human and non-human, throughout the whole series. And in each book, these two heroes, they stumble upon some kind of situation where someone needs help. In this first one, The Magic Mirror, this is the first book in the series. Well, there's a broken magic mirror, and as you might imagine, it doesn't get much magic done if it's broken. So there's that. There's the Snoring Princess, except instead of sleeping away in her bed like she's supposed to be, she's gone somewhere because she's the sleepwalker. There's a missing dwarf. So there are a whole bunch of dilemmas to be solved here. So Kara and Zed, they take on these little mysteries. So it's this whole fairy tale land, but also a little mystery going on in each one of these books. And as I mentioned, it looks like book 5 will be coming out pretty soon. So you can get started on this series, and maybe by the time you're ready, book 5 will be ready for you. Next up, we'll have a look at The Last Firehawk. Katrina Charman is the author. Again, these are straight up fantasy books. Definitely go with that animal fantasy category. And again, I would say these are of interest to anyone who has enjoyed picture books with talking animals, or any books with animals going on adventures. This has a lot of that big epic adventure. It has some battles going on in there. So we start this one. The first book is called The Ember Stone. We start this book with the little owl Tag. This guy here on the cover, he is training to become a warrior, but he's a little bit on the small side, so he really isn't too successful. But when the owl's home is threatened by this big nasty vulture and his evil band of bats, Tag, our little owl friend here, sets out to prove his bravery. And so he and his stalwart friend Skyla the squirrel, they go out and they actually stumble on a much bigger adventure than they were expecting. So they find this mysterious golden egg, and when it starts to hatch, they don't even know what they're in for. This is a great series where the story arc reaches through the entire series. So once you get into book 1, you gotta grab book 2 and find out what's gonna happen next. In book 3 and book 4, there are 10 books in the series. 9 of them are out now. Number 10 also coming out later next summer. So definitely get started with these, and maybe that book will be ready for you just like the last series. Maybe that book will be ready for you when you're ready for it. The next series, Tales from Decawoo Drive, come from the very popular author Kate DiCamillo. She has written a ton of books at a whole variety of levels, so chances are great you've read or maybe heard of at least a book or two from her. These are realistic fiction, kind of. We'll get to that in a minute. And again, I'm going to actually say these are going to appeal mostly to almost any kind of reader. They are realistic fiction, so there's a lot you can kind of make connections with or relate to in these books, but there's also that added element of a big giant pig. So I'm actually going to start with this. If you are familiar with Mercy Watson, these are actually also in our chapter book section, but Mercy is a pig. She's a big giant pig. She just happens to live with a family in a neighborhood. So each one of these books is about one of Mercy's neighbors, all with their little quirks and their dreams and their goals. There are 5 of these stories so far. Again, number 6 will be out pretty soon. So this whole series, each of these books, they've got this very similar to Mercy Watson. They've got an equal share of the slapstick humor, some realistic situations, and also a whole bunch of warm fuzzies. So check those out for sure. We are switching gears for sure with this next series. This is an untitled series, but these are all sports stories by Jake Maddox. They are definitely in that realistic fiction category, but more so very specifically sports stories. The interest level are definitely on that upper end of independent readers. So I'm going to actually call these grades 4 and up, even heading into those middle school readers. They're a little denser, the covers are a little less cartoony, so they have that kind of high octane topic of lots of times school sports, maybe competitive sports. So they're definitely going to appeal to those older readers. A lot of times the characters in these books, there are some very diverse characters in these books, and they are of that middle school age, and a few even in the high school age. There's often some kind of interpersonal conflict during the sport or with something that's going on. So definitely going to go for those upper level readers. But despite the fact that they're a little denser than the other chapter books we've been looking at, they do come in about or under 70 pages. There are the pictures that kind of break up the text every once in a while. So they are definitely accessible for those readers who want something that looks a little older and more appropriate for those older readers, but who's still working on that fluency. So if you're looking for a book that's interesting but not too difficult, Jake Maddox is the way to go. What are they about? Well, sports fans rejoice. These are all about sports. One of the fun things is that they do highlight some different kinds of sports. There's a BMX bike one, there's some motocross racing, but there's also lacrosse and hockey, and I know he's got a soccer one. This one here is skating. So that's one you don't necessarily see a lot of stories about. So competitive figure skating, that one's kind of cool. This is one, hiking. I mean, that doesn't actually sound too exciting, but when there are bears involved, I don't know if you can see there's a big shadow of a bear. So when there are bears involved, that makes it exciting, for better or worse, right? Maybe for worse. So each of these characters, as they go through their story, they're trying to do their best. They're maybe facing support or not getting support from their friends, their family, their teammates. And so usually at the end of each of these books, it comes down to this big event, and you have to try to read each one. They are a series in that they are the same author. They have very similar format, but the books are not connected. So you can read them in any order. There are a whole lot of Jake Maddox books to choose from. And we have reached the bonus book section. So my bonus books this time, they're bonus because I'm actually featuring 2 series here. 2 series by the same author. These are Billy B. Brown and Hey Jack, both by Sally Rippon. Very much in that realistic fiction category. I'm gonna again say this is really gonna appeal to pretty much any early reader. This The characters are both school age, so it may appeal most to elementary school students, maybe that grades 1 through 4. Our characters are Billy B. Brown. Here she is. She's got a lot of spunk and a little mischief going on there. And then, of course, Jack is our other character here. Sweet kid. He's maybe a little more responsible than Billy. Sometimes he can be a little sensitive and get worried about some new things, but he can also be a lot of fun. Another cool thing about these series is that they actually they complement each other. You don't have to read them together, but Billy B and Jack are neighbors, and so every once in a while you'll be reading about Billy and Jack will pop into that story, or vice versa. So if you like one of these series, you might just want to jump in and read both of these series, and that will give you plenty of reading between those two series. Keep you busy for a little while. These books are really accessible for those beginning readers. Again, I just happened to flip open to an illustration. Not all the pages have illustration, but they have nice big words and lots of white space. So if you are new to reading chapter books, these are not scary at all. Lots of space, lots of room for you to pick out these words as you go. So that's really, really comforting when you're trying to get started into those chapter books. We've got, like I said, realistic fiction. We've got books about camping out. We've got books about school projects, about making friends or keeping friends, trying new things, going to sleepovers, getting a pet, birthday parties. So there is something in at least one of these books that you definitely have probably experienced yourself before. So that definitely makes for a fun read, is to be something that you can relate to. As I've said with a few of these other series, if you can make connections or you can relate to that character, it makes it a lot more fun to jump in and read about that character. So Billy B and Jack, two absolutely wonderful characters. A great little series, like I said, very accessible. So if you are just new to chapter books, these might be perfect ones to start with, and they're just the perfect size for popping in your backpack. I hope you'll swing by the library to check out these great reads, and you can feel free to call the library or shoot us an email for personalized recommendations. Check back soon to see my next video for some more suggestions. Till then, be well and read well.